Mr. RabidApe. Blue Adept here, as I'm sure you know. How's it going? I thought I'd make you a video response, seeing as you're my only other subscriber other than Billy, and I've been meaning to chat with you for a while, or at least discuss some ideas that I don't want to put into, a video that is about a concept. And that's what this account is about. I want to make videos that are addressed to specific people rather than tackling the concept. You're an interesting case, aren't you, Mr. RabidApe? Because you're, I consider you to be, as I've said before, a rational, logical person. And I have this belief, this optimistic belief, that anybody who thinks the issue of atheism through to its end will not be an atheist at the end of the process. So I guess you're going to be my guinea pig on that. Because you're a rational person, and because I'm about to enlighten you, or start the process, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, what am I here to talk about? Mr. RabidApe, you are under the misimpression that science can explain everything, aren't you? This is the great tragedy of our generation, that everyone has been brainwashed away from seeing what is actually a matter of fact. That in this world there is a distinction between physical processes, things that science can tackle, and the spiritual aspect of the world. And a lot of people have been indoctrinated. I mean, not even like indoctrinated in the absence of an indoctrinator. Anyway, they've been indoctrinated into thinking that science can account for everything. For example, if we want to understand experiences, human experience, the qualia, which I talked about in my last few videos, that all this is ultimately reducible to, the underlying neurobiology. And it's not. And when I say it's not, what I mean is that people often confuse our ability to find the correlation between experience and the associated neurobiology. People mistake that association is equivalent to understanding. And I think there's two major sort of pitfalls that people fall into, generally. One is they mistakenly assume that labels confer explanatory status. Like, for example, saying that someone is a schizophrenic is some sort of an explanation. A label, once you label something with a scientific word, doesn't mean you've explained it at all. The other pitfall that people tend to fall into is, like I said before, mistakenly thinking that correlation is explanation. Yes, there is a correlation between our experience of the world and the underlying neurobiology, but our experience of the world, our sensations, our perceptions, our consciousness, emotions, all of that qualia stuff cannot be reduced to physical processes. It can be associated with physical processes, but it can't be reduced further down until we understand it completely, because the experiential world, the spiritual world, if you will, whatever you want to call it, is a matter of a subjective experience, not objective experience. And I guess I'm gonna keep talking about this in more vids, but the example that I gave when I was talking to a novelist was the idea of the paramecium, right? If we knew everything about the paramecium from a physical point of view, from the physical process point of view, would we actually know whether or not the paramecium experienced pain? No, we wouldn't. You know, we could make educated guesses, we could suppose, but we wouldn't really know. What would it mean to have knowledge of such a thing? What would it mean for us to have knowledge of the experiential world? You know, what is it that science isn't giving us, that I'm saying science can't give us in principle? Well, what I'm saying that we're missing is the ability, for example, to map this onto the paramecium example, the ability to say with any degree of certainty that if you want to build a thing from scratch physically, which is a thinking, feeling thing, let's just go with feeling thing. Let's just go with thing that feels pain, just as an example. What would be, how do you build something like that? What are the physical constraints? What are the constraints on the physical system for you to build something that is experiencing an actual sensation? And I don't care if it's pain or pleasure or visual perception or the actual audition, the sensation of hearing something. What is the magic formula? You know, independent of a specific biology, what is the secret formula for building such a thing? Until we can understand that, which I don't think we can in principle, then we won't really have our hooks into the spiritual realm of things. The spiritual and the physical don't intersect. They correlate, but they don't intersect. So, that's one major misconception that I think you have, my friend. And you don't have a respect for the spiritual realm. You don't even acknowledge that the spiritual realm exists as something other than the physical realm, okay? So obviously, since if you don't acknowledge that it exists, you're not going to have any respect for it. And once you acknowledge that it exists, and once you acknowledge the difference, then that raises the whole sort of it opens the door on a lot of other questions, like what is the extent of this spiritual realm? What are the implications of this spiritual realm? What does it mean? Does it mean that there is some god in a white robe sitting on a cloud that we have to pray to? Probably not. I hope not. So how far do you take this spiritual realm? I don't know. But to ignore it completely, or to write it off, or to pretend that we already understand it, you know, that's what really pisses me off, when people either say that, you know, science can't approach it, therefore it doesn't exist, or science can't approach these issues, therefore, we must already understand them. This really pisses me off. And you know what this is? That's an unhealthy line of thought, but that's where atheism leads you. You know, you'll see religious people won't talk like this, but atheists will talk like this. Atheists will find a way, because of the way they map the world onto their belief system, they'll eventually be led down the path of saying things like, I don't feel, what is pain? What is pain anyway? Pain doesn't exist. My computer feels, a blue screen of death is pain, you know? Anyway, so I'm trying to save you from having this fucked up worldview, which is incorrect. Fucked up happens to be incorrect and unhealthy. Okay, so that's that.